welcome to the 495. I'm your host, Doug Sparks, editor-in-chief of Merrimack Valley Magazine. Lou, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well today. This will be a first.
This is going to be a first, so we haven't
Well, we're hoping it's going to be a first.
Okay, so we're waiting on the senator. So State Senator Diana DiZoglio is out walking across the state of Massachusetts right now, and she's supposed to zoom in, and we're gonna speak with her. But we haven't heard from her yet, but she just got the information, so that should happen soon. And we might even have some special guests on the program this morning because she has some friends and friends of the show out there.
We're taking a remote to a new level.
Yes, absolutely. It will be a first. But, I've been watching on her Facebook page. I've been watching her do Facebook Live and sort of give updates, and it's pretty fascinating. I mean, if you're not following her on Facebook, anyone whatever your politics, you should definitely check it out. Just in terms of the adventure, just in terms of like what's involved in going out to the New York border on an early Friday morning, right?
Yep.
There she is. She's connecting.
Yes.
Hey, Diana, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. I can hear you too. There's a little bit of a delay. There's a little bit of a delay, so I'm going to ask questions and I'm going to zip my lip. It looks much sunnier out there than it is around here.
The sun just came out. I'm so excited. It was a little bit drizzly this morning, but within the last half an hour to 45 minutes, the sun peeked out. You can see there's some blue in the sky right now up there behind me. Fantastic. Very exciting. As you know, the first day, it rained the whole day. But we've had some really, really great weather since then. So I'm super grateful that the weather's been cooperating. And we're making some progress today, Doug. We're getting to the halfway point.
Yeah. So why are you, I was just starting to talk about this. If people don't know why you're doing this, why on earth are you walking across the state of Massachusetts?
That is a great question. I am not walking across the state of Massachusetts to prove how fast I can walk, because I will tell you, I'm certainly starting to slow down a little bit. It's been a little rougher on the joints than I would have imagined, even though I did train as much as I could for it. Still, the constant walking every single day has taken a little bit of a toll on me. And, slow down a little bit, but we're still making good progress. I am walking so that we can raise awareness about the need to fund youth services across the state. And in particular, I'm trying to raise funds for our local Methuen Youth and Community Center capital campaign. Methuen is one of the only communities locally to me in the Merrimack Valley that doesn't have a formal youth center. And our kids really need all the support they can get, especially during the COVID pandemic. They're isolated from their peers. They're isolated from their mentors. And they really need the social, emotional, and mental supports to be able to make it not just through the pandemic, but, to not just survive, but to thrive. So we're trying to get this youth center built. We've seen about $84,000 in donations come up to this point, which is hugely exciting. And chose to do the walk because we can't get together formally right now, as you know, Doug, and we've been really having a challenging time across all sectors in the nonprofit sector, but across all different agencies in the nonprofit world, trying to raise the funds that we need in our communities without being able to gather at fundraising events and at auctions and do comedy shows and things like that. So this was a way that we could get creative and highlight the need to fund these youth services statewide. We've drawn attention to the Boys and Girls Clubs, the YMCAs, the Big Brothers, Big Sisters, but also to be able to highlight the need to raise those funds for this important capital campaign right in my hometown.
Yeah. So people can follow you on your Facebook. They can follow you on Twitter. They can follow you on Instagram across social media platforms. And there's also an app called MoveSpring, where you can track the journey. And also, if you want to walk along and kind of rack up some miles, you can do that as well. I'm number 2, by the way. I'm number 2 in the lead on MoveSpring.
Still, congratulations.
Which is a shame. It means everybody needs to get out there and start walking, because I have not been I did walk a little bit this weekend, but I haven't been walking much since the near 18 miles we did on Friday in 40-degree weather with the cold rain.
So great. so grateful to have that company that day. That was one of the hardest days. That was the hardest day because of the weather. So I'm so glad that you and Glenn Prezano were there with me to help to motivate and provide the support to keep going and the encouragement. And, we ended up making it. I'm very grateful to you for that. I want to let everybody know too, Doug, if I could, that while you can follow along with me in the Move Spring app that you can find at the inspirationalones.org website, you can also do your own march across Massachusetts for the youth project, for this Methuen Youth and Community Center Capital campaign. You don't have to actually march across Massachusetts, so you can do it virtually. The app will track your miles, and you can use the app to try to garner some of your own support for the project and tell people, hey, I'm planning on walking 3 miles or 5 miles or even 10 miles for the Methuen Youth and Community Center Capital campaign. Would you mind sponsoring me? And it'll let you sign up and track your own miles, and then you bring it to your family and to your friends, and you ask them to make a small contribution so that you can chip into the cause as well through those efforts in your own virtual walk. So I strongly encourage you to do that and to virtually walk alongside of me. It's for a great cause. The kids really need this. And thanks again to Merrimack Valley Magazine for giving me the opportunity to highlight this important initiative and for partnering with us by being our media sponsor.
Cool. So the whole walk is 159 miles, 10 days, still on schedule?
Still on schedule today. Yes, we have a couple of miles to make up today. We stopped for a while here in Gardner with Representative John Zlotnick, and the local Boys and Girls Club came out and greeted us and was telling us a little bit about some of their challenges and some of their successes that we can learn from and implement in our campaign for the Methuen Youth and Community Center, and met with some of the local elected officials here. So that took a little bit of time, well worth it. But we do have some of the pace to pick up here again. So I am going to jump back at it so that we can make sure we get there before nightfall. And tomorrow we'll be starting off at Fitchburg State University. So hopefully some of you will join in and follow me on social media to check in on the progress.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, the first day, like we said, it was pretty cold. It was pretty, it was rainy. There were some really beautiful parts because we got to look down into some great views in Western Massachusetts. It was a little tough. And I think we made sad figures along the road with bundled up in our raincoats. Have you started meeting people and talking to people in the journey?
I don't know. We seem to have lost. Oh, there we go. She's back.
Absolutely. Every time I stop, you there?
Yeah.
I can hear you. Every time I stop to get a sandwich or a coffee or anything like that, people, they look at me, they'll see me with my hiking poles or my backpack on, which I did take off for this interview to give my shoulders a rest. But they'll see me with all this hiking gear on, walking on this main road. And of course they ask, what are you doing? And I have an opportunity to talk to them and to tell them what this is all about. And people have been hugely supportive, and they've offered advice and moral support. And it's been really great. And again, all of the elected officials locally that I serve with in the legislature, some of the senators, some of the representatives, they've been coming out and joining along the journey as well to offer support. I'm actually out with President Lane Glenn today from Northern Essex Community College, and he's out just supporting the cause, supporting youth initiatives, and he's going to walk. He's hopefully going to finish the 20 miles with me today, if we can do the 20 miles today, and we'll let you know.
Okay. Do you still think you're going to make it in 10 days?
I do think that we're going to make it in 10 days. Yes, I do. I did log in a couple of extra miles previously, so I'm a little bit ahead of schedule actually. So we should be making it on time, even with some of these stops that we've decided to include to meet with some of the local elected officials and some of the local youth center organizations.
What happens at the end?
At the end, who knows? I'm probably going to want to run and jump in the ocean. We'll see, depending on the weather. But at the end, we're going to see if we hit our goal and see how much we raised, and then get to work. Celebrate very quickly, but we're going to get to work. I'm going to be ending at the Salisbury Beach. I'll be ending at Salisbury Beach on North End Boulevard, right on the New Hampshire border. So we will have gone from the New York border all the way to the New Hampshire border. And that will be in my district that we're ending. And we'll celebrate and then get to work.
Yeah. So just to clarify, all of the money you're attempting to raise in this leg, $159,000, and this is all for renovations of a building. What can you say about this building?
So the Pleasant Valley School building on Pleasant Valley Street in Methuen is the building that is being considered by the school committee currently for use for the Methuen Youth and Community Center. I am very optimistic. I've spoken with each member of the school committee, and that just needs to go through the formal process where they will have deliberation about how to best use that building moving forward. But we have the support of the mayor. And like I said, I have spoken with every single member of the school committee about this, and I'm very optimistic about the outcome there regarding the capital campaign and their support of donating the use of that building to contribute to this very important cause.
Yeah. So along the way, I wanted to point this out. You've been staying at pretty modest accommodations, right? You've been staying in kind of small, like local hotels, nothing fancy at all. Did you stay at a campground one night? I thought I saw a picture of you on your Facebook at a campground.
I did stay at a campground. I'm actually a very big fan of camping, but unfortunately, the campground that I wanted to stay in, one of them was booked fully and they didn't have any openings, and the other one was shut down for the season, probably due to circumstances surrounding the pandemic. So I have been staying at motels along the way, and the people that are running these motels have been very, very friendly and very accommodating and very helpful. All, mostly locally owned. The first place that I stayed at that we ended at is owned by a wonderful woman. Her name's Teresa, the Whitcomb Summit Retreat. And she actually had a few connections in Methuen that she was talking to me about, and was actually introducing me to a couple of Methuen people who happened to be visiting her while I was there staying at her place one of the evenings. So definitely great to be meeting some of the people out here, and you already know it, but you really understand it really is a small world. It's really a small world. So it's been great to make some of these connections, and people have been really, really supportive, and I'm very, very grateful.
How are donations going? I remember the first night you got a really nice, big, unexpected donation from Pentucket Bank. How was the situation with the donations?
Donations have been coming in steadily at this point. Would like to see a rapid uptick, of course. That would be great. And I'm once again very grateful to Merrimack Valley Magazine for putting the opportunity to donate out there to people and getting the word out to those who haven't yet found out about this. But the more the word gets spread, Doug, the more we see those donations come in. So every
You're breaking up just a little bit. If you can hear me,
they're a little bit more quickly. But even I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. So I'm going to turn this over to Lou in a second because he might have some questions. But the one thing I wanted to ask, because I was thinking about this, I hear about this for people who hike the Appalachian Trail. They hike the whole thing. It's this huge achievement. They get up to Mount Katahdin, and it's like they're so used to walking, they don't know what else to do. So there's this urge, even though they're completely exhausted, to turn around and head back down to Georgia. Do you think you're going to have that feeling? Like once you get to Salisbury, like, yes, you're going to be tired. Yes, you're going to want to be sit down. But can you imagine just getting out there and saying, let's do it again?
Honestly, I will have to let you know when I get out there how I'm going to feel. But I can say that I've been getting more and more motivated every day that we've been out here since I got over a little bit of a hump on Sunday, I think. Sunday, I was a little bit sluggish. I was a little bit more slow moving for the first half of the day. And then once I got over that hump, I actually have been walking a little bit more quickly and a little bit more energetic. And I think my body's getting a little bit more used to, okay, this is what we're going to be doing all day, every day for the next couple of days. So get used to it. So who knows? I don't know. Maybe I'll get to Salisbury and, be ready to get out on the trails the next day. But I do have a lot of work that I need to get back to. So, if I could do act walking, hopefully it'll put a little pep in my step to keep up with some sort of high. Maybe we can think of an locally that we're doing of sorts.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna try to be there Sunday to join you at the end. My daughters have a Halloween party, so I need to figure that's priority on Sunday. But I am going to try to get out there, and maybe we'll do a little interview, and see how it goes at the end. Lou, do you have any questions for the senator?
Well, Diana, I'm a little disappointed you're not going to finish out on Plum Island with me, as opposed to going to Salisbury.
I will be stopping in Newburyport on the way.
Glenn Prezano, the publisher, is texting me while the interview is going on here, and he's kind of upset because there's no rain where you are now, apparently. So.
Yeah. I'm not sorry there's no rain. It was raining this morning, and I'm very happy that it stopped for this interview.
Yeah.
Are you out with a support team? In other words, are you just walking alone? Are you meeting people on one end of your walk and the other, or is this just a solo exercise right now?
Voluntarily so. Just some friends from our community that decided to come out and to support and to walk some of the way with me. The first day, obviously, Merrimack Valley Magazine was out there with us all day long, offering support. That was fantastic. Day 2 and day 3 was sporadic. I had a couple of people helping out here and there. And since then, I have had people volunteering and supporting all day long, which is doused with me all day, with me early in the morning, and we walked about 16 miles or so yesterday. And then today, like I said, President Lane Glenn, he met me early this morning, and we're going to try to put in, between 18 and 20 miles today.
Yeah, he'll keep you paced, that's for sure. Talk to me about the most pleasant surprise, because obviously 2020 is 2020 and we're in an election year and there's a lot of animosity and there's a lot of division. But I'm guessing what you're finding out there is much more pleasant surprises that the way people are in real life day to day.
Yeah, I mean, being out here working for a cause that I think everybody can get behind, no matter, what political party you subscribe to, I think is, it's really great to see. It's been together out here and nobody's talking along the journey about politics really at all. Everybody's talking about how great it is to, be able to support the youth in the community and bring people together and to support a great cause. I just got finished meeting with the director of the Boys and Girls Club here in Gardner. And she was talking to me about and how important that is. And, she's so glad to have the support in the legislature for STEAM efforts. What that is for your listeners is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And was talking about how important it is to make sure that they have funding for STEAM efforts at local after-school programs for these kids that goes above and beyond what's already happening day to day, in their school day. And that's something that both Republicans and Democrats agree on. So, these youth initiatives are really bringing the community together. And I think that this march has been just very encouraging on all counts in knowing that, everybody really wants to come and step up when it comes to supporting the kids in our communities.
Well, Senator, thank you so much for joining us today. I really, really appreciate you taking the time because I know you have a lot going on, so it means a lot. I hope people go to inspirationalones.org and contribute. I hope they follow you on social media to continue tracking this journey as it continues into its, final leg. And I wish you the best of luck today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Doug, Lou, everybody over at Merrimack Valley Magazine, working on the podcast, all the volunteers, and all of those who are watching right now. So grateful for your support for this youth center initiative, but also for your support for all of the local community organizations that are doing great work right now. Please feel free to go to inspirationalones.org and check out what we're doing, see how you can join in the march for yourself. And please also make a contribution. Every bit helps. $20, $15, even $5. will go a long way towards making a difference in the lives of these kids and help us to reach our goal. Thanks again, Doug. Thanks, Lou. We'll talk to you all over at Merrimack Valley Magazine very soon, I hope.
Absolutely. Stay safe out there.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care, Senator.
All right, very nice.
That was fun. That was different. I mean, the feed broke up a little bit, but it was, we got it. It's nice that it's sunny out there. I thought it was supposed to be sunny around here today. It doesn't, at least when I pulled in. It
I was going to ask her when she does this next year how she thought about the time range she did it, like late October.
It's funny because initially the weather reports going into, the plans changed because the weather reports for Friday when we started this it was supposed to be mild. It was supposed to be I was worried it was going to be too hot.
Really?
And it was also going to be 14 miles. But as we got closer and closer, actually the night before, it extended to, what ended up being almost 18, which I know just from like the tracker on my phone. And the weather
How did you do with
18? I did okay. I mean, I was able to hike the next day. I went for a short hike the next day. So what happens is the first 3 miles. So we get out, and we didn't even know where we were going to meet them. She was brought there by another state senator, Adam Hines, who's out in Western Mass. He dropped her off in the car, like at the border, at the sign, like not even like a parking lot or anything, just there.
Really? Yeah.
So we were kind of looking for we didn't know what to expect.
Did he slow down the car? Or did he?
Yeah, no, he slowed down, and we talked to him. He's a great guy. But we were looking like was it going to be a trail? We were going to walk in the road? We didn't know anything. We're going to be there.
So no route, no anything.
We get up early in the morning. Well, they had a route, but she's busy. We're not going to pepper her with questions. So we're there. We're going to be troopers, and we're going to go do this thing. And it's still pretty nice. So Glenn Pisano, owner and publisher of Merrimack Valley Magazine, I was with in the car with him, but he couldn't find a parking space. So he dropped me off, and then he drove into Williamstown to find a space. We were going to meet him down the road, and he would kind of drive back and take a couple pictures that are going to be in the article in November, the forthcoming article. So about the first 3 miles, it was nothing. It was slow slope down through these beautiful scenic. We did take a little bit of a side road. It was a dirt road, really nice houses, great foliage, little hiking paths, sheep and cows, and it was everything you wanted.
It's Western Mass.
Yeah, right. It was classic Western Mass. Yeah. And then as we get into Williamstown, the rain starts falling. Now, as you know, I like the cold. I have no problem with the cold. I hike in the cold all the time. But cold with cold rain is a different thing. And I was in shorts and a t-shirt, so I was really feeling it. And by the end, my wife was even getting a little bit frantic because she was trying to text me, but I couldn't move my thumbs.
Oh, really?
And it was so bad when this whole thing was over. I had to talk to her on the phone. I couldn't move my thumbs to text. Got in my car, drove an hour. Everything was safe. I could keep, use the steering wheel. There was no safety issues. But then I pulled over to get a snack, and I still couldn't text.
Really?
So like an hour later, my hands still hadn't really warmed up. So the first day was pretty darn tough. And then also it was a little bit scary because we're right, the hairpin turn out in Western Mass, right on Route 2 that goes around like the Golden Eagle restaurant.
Yep.
The restaurant that was knocked off the mountainside,
That's right.
60 years ago by semi trucks. We walked that, and there's no real place for humans there. It's,
right.
Now in some ways, the rain and the fog and the sleet and the rain has probably worked out in our favor in that way.
Slowing people down.
Because it did slow people down. But we were still right up against that traffic, and it was, I was pretty, and the other point I want to make is after that gentle slope down, going through, beautiful town of Williamstown and looking at the college or the colleges, after that it slowly starts to go up. And then it gets steeper and steeper and steeper. In the final, maybe 4 miles, I don't know, was just like steep, and that was kind of tough on my legs. I was worried about blisters and things like that.
Right.
I've been kind of training a little bit myself. I didn't get any blisters. My feet were fine. But my thighs, by the end, it's like I wanted to do that thing where I was like reaching down and pulling my legs into the next step. But, by the next day, I was able to get out there again.
I feel like I could pull it off. If you put me in the position where I had to do 15 miles or 18 miles, I feel like I could pull it off. She's got to do it for 10 days straight.
Yeah, I know. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing.
I definitely felt like, wow, like that's a lot. It was because of the incline. It was a little bit more than I expected. The weather absolutely played a role. I mean, it was raining once it started raining, it rained the entire time. It never, ever, ever let up. So that was a factor as well. It was also a beautiful experience. I mean, you're out there, and even with the rain, I mean, walking underneath the shadow of Mount Greylock and looking at these really beautiful towns and seeing it from this different perspective. I mean, the other thing that gets hard at the end, I think, is your sense of time is so off because you're used to driving in a car.
Yeah.
And you know your destination's 2 hours ahead, but 2 hours, if your legs are sore, just feels like it's forever. So I remember, like, we knew the place we were going to where it had parked, and I knew it was at the top of a hill.
Yep.
And we would kind of go down the valley, and there'd be a top of a hill, and I'd be like, please let that be the place where we parked.
Right.
And we're just slowly making our way up to the top of this thing, and I would look down and see another valley. And I'd be like, oh. So I was really feeling that sense of, man, like this, I know this is only 2 miles, but this is going on
But
forever.
It's literally step by step. It's like, especially when those steps become very present in your mind because you've been doing it for a while. You're a little worn down. You know?
I mean, and it's funny because I remembered, like, I read this James Nestor book on breathing earlier, and he talks about, like, how athletes use breathing. So I was kind of focused on breathing and thinking about breathing. And then I think at a certain point, both Glenn Pisano and the senator mentioned that they were doing breathing exercises or focusing on their breath. Mm-hmm. So you do need to kind of trick your mind into pushing through this in some ways. Now, she was, out of all of us, she was well-trained, and she was definitely, like, the most optimistic. Like, nothing would get her down. We'd be like, oh, I don't want to go on the road. That looks miserable. We're going to get hit.
Yeah.
Like,
No, that's her.
I was grouchy, I was starting to feel kind of grouchy, and she's like, "This is fine. This is great. Like, look at these trees." And she would keep going, which says something about her character, I think. So it was great. And then I got home at, 9:30 at night, and woke up the next morning and drove into the office and started to work on the story. Usually stories are wrapped up by now, would be wrapped up by now for the November issue, but we really wanted to do this, and we wanted it to be timely. And then I had to figure out, how am I going to write this thing in a way so that if somebody picks up a copy of this magazine in November or December, it's the holiday issue, it's still going to be kind of interesting no matter what happens. So I had to think about it from that perspective. How am I writing this to a person who picks it up on December 1st?
It's an interesting presentation.
Yeah, and how much, because it's magazine writing, it doesn't have to be journalism. How much is it going to be humor, and how much of it is like, how much am I going to kind of insert my own personality into it? And at the same time, we also wanted I don't know if this was clear for the conversation, the fundraising continues to the end of December. The goal is to hit the 159K by the end of the walk. Mm-hmm. All right. But the fundraising continues into December. So even if somebody happens to be listening to this podcast in December, you can still give. You can still get on and contribute. So we also wanted it to have the benefit of raising money for this youth center, which I think everybody agrees is important. Right. Also happens to be right down the street from us. Yes. Did you know that?
Yes, I know the school you're talking about.
Yeah. So anyways, so I pounded that out, and we went back and forth, and I sent it to Glenn Pisano, and he had some suggestions, and we kind of worked on it into Sunday. And, then the piece was done. Very unusual process for us. Normally everything is done. Then it goes off to the copy editor. Yep. And the copy editor has his say. And then it comes back to me, and we wrangle a little bit more. And there it is. Glenn Pisano got to dip his toe into the water as a photographer.
Yes.
So he's
I noted that.
He's not normally a photographer, and he got to stretch his wings. And I think the photography looks pretty good. But you'll have to be the judge when we hold the physical issue in our hands a couple weeks from now.
All right. Before we preview the next issue, November issue coming out very soon, we had to bump a guest for this show. To get the senator on.
Oh, thanks for mentioning that. Yeah. So today it was supposed to be House Bear Brewing out of Newburyport, and they very kindly moved their time forward to early in November, which was tough for them because they sell their stuff, and I'll talk about what they do at a lot of, like, farmers markets and things like that, which are beginning to shut down. Fortunately, there are the winter markets. Like, I know the winter market in Chelmsford that I live nearby. I can't remember the place. I think it's called Maxwell's. It's like a hardware store. They do a really great winter's market, and I know they sell it there. So this is a Newburyport company that does mead. Yeah. And as the Viking, I can't resist mead.
And mead is good for the winter.
Mead is great for the winter, and what they do it right, because like, if you've ever tried mead and you haven't liked it, it's probably because for a long time in this country, before almost like the craft beer movement came in and showed people the way, you could get mead, but it was very sweet. It tasted like cough syrup. It wasn't very pleasant. And or you could either get like something that was syrupy and sweet, or you could get something that was very expensive that was made in Denmark or something like that. That would be like, $40 for a bottle that would be tossed back and be gone, right? So sort of on the heels of the craft beer movement, we started seeing meaderies coming around and doing it right and using good ingredients and making dry meads. And they do fantastic stuff. On Memorial Day, I went to Drumhill Liquors in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, and picked up a bunch of bottles of their mead, and that's what I served to my guests at our little Viking party around the fire. It's really good stuff. So we'll talk more. We'll talk to them. In November. But if you're interested in mead, and if you're listening, definitely check them out. You can order on their website or go to the farmers markets all throughout the Merrimack Valley and pick up a bottle and see for yourself. There's don't be afraid to buy me one and send it to me. If you do a direct message, I'll send you my address. It's good stuff.
So the November issue. First of all, let's start with, when does it hit the shelves?
It's going to hit the shelves. The shelf question and the mailbox question a little bit different, and we don't know, but it's usually around the 1st of November.
Oh,
the
excellent.
First of the month.
Yep.
All right, so it's gonna be born sometime around November 1st.
Yep.
And then it takes a little bit of time to get into the mails and get into the stands. You can go over to Butcher Boy and Man Orchards and different places, local places, independent places will stock it. So soon. Right now, we're in the final part of production week, which is why I was working all weekend, which is why we're all working late and getting up early, because this is the final stretch. And the final stretch is always like lots of caffeine type of, like, all of us, really keep
it's like walking 18
pushing.
miles in a day.
It's not that hard in some sense.
Mentally.
But there is that kind of like we push. Push. So editorial for the most part is done, and tomorrow we proof. We sit down and a little group of proofreaders goes over, and we go through and try to find the final, any type error we can find or any mistake. And sometimes we spot big things. Most of the time we go the extra mile, and we try to really make sure that the issue is going to be as clean as possible, because we want to be the magazine of record. We want historians to be able to look at the magazine 100 years from now, know that everything was accurate and that they can trust what they're reading. That's the goal.
Yep.
And that takes a lot of extra work. And that's tomorrow. When that's done, I get to breathe easy a little bit, have a cup of tea, meditate,
open some mead,
and then start thinking about January. And November and December is a big issue for us. It's a complicated issue for us because it's the holiday issue. So there's a lot of things that we do to cover holiday-related activities, or like food and things like that have to do with.
So what are the highlights? What are we going to see in the November issue?
One of my favorite pieces, probably actually one of my favorite pieces that's ever been in the magazine since I started working, is Paul Marion, who's been on the show. He's a writer, he's a publisher, he owns the Loom Press in Lowell, and he wrote a memoir piece about growing up in, he grew up in Drake right outside, but growing up at a time that Lowell was very different, before the malls.
Right.
Where that was where you went when it was like holiday, Christmas shopping season, right? Yeah. Like it was a completely different, like there was this energy and a buzz, and I think that comes through with the article and just what that meant.
When
and
Christmas
also,
was downtown shops.
Yeah, Christmas was downtown shops, and he also, like, that's where he worked. That's where he got his first jobs. It's running the elevator at one of these department stores, and it's just a fantastic piece. It's a dense piece. There are many, many layers to it, but it's also beautiful, and it just and it's not like I was there. It makes me feel nostalgic, but I vaguely remember a little bit of that time. But I'm much more a child of the malls than of downtown Lowell. I do remember, going and shopping for things in Lowell, but I was really, really young.
Decorated, these mill towns decorated with the shops open and going shopping at night.
Yeah, so it's a fantastic piece, and I think it says ultimately, you can always learn lessons from the past in good ways, not just in negative ways.
Yep.
And he digs in. He digs in on that, and it's just beautifully written. So I'm really excited about that. There's a whole bunch of holiday related material too. Like we do this thing every Thursday. We have a free newsletter called 8 Great Things to Do This Weekend. Right. So we do various spins on 8 Great that involve music with musicians who, grew up in the Valley or who live in the Valley, films with actors who are from the Valley, because there's a whole bunch of actors, like people don't necessarily realize. Adam Sandler is from Merrimack Valley. He grew up in here. So there's a whole a bunch of celebrities. So we do a film thing, and then we do a little little bits history, a look at some of the holiday related history of the Merrimack Valley too. So these kind of neat little digestible sort of like, I didn't know that, or I once knew that but I forgot about it, about our region. And then we have every year we do this holidays with the chefs type piece, where we go and we talk to chefs in the area and we ask them about their holiday memories. What do you remember growing up? What are your food memories? And we ask them to build recipes based on their memories. It's a really popular piece. People love it. And the cool thing about it is it gives you a lot of ideas. Even if you're not throwing big parties this year, it gives you ideas of dishes you can make for your family. Some of them are traditional. Some of them maybe not so much. Like when we did Horseshoe Grill a couple years ago, the chef, his birthday was on Christmas, so every year he would go outside and get a big cast iron pot and make chili. Most people don't associate chili with Christmas
chili. I like it.
But that was his tradition. Now, to me, chili on Christmas makes perfect sense. Christmas Day makes perfect sense, especially if you're going to be outside with a bunch of your buddies drinking beer and cooking over cast iron. I can't imagine anything would.
It does make perfect sense.
Can you imagine anything tasting better? And it's you
what better to keep you warm while you're sitting outside?
Exactly. Yeah. So there's and then along these same lines, we also did something on hot cocktails.
Oh,
which
excellent.
is something people sometimes forget that you can make these kind of neat hot drinks. So we had area bartenders contribute those. We talked to Dawn Aurora Hunt, who was also on the show, The Kitchen Witch, whose book just came out, which is really cool. You should check that out. And she contributed a non-alcoholic, a tisane or an herbal tea for people who don't drink alcohol. That's very warming. It will keep you warm on those cold nights. I hope I'm getting everybody in the mood for the holidays.
Yep.
We did something on Dean Johnson. He has Good Eats Calm, which is usually a food review. Dean wrote about what it's like to have a new restaurant during the pandemic.
Oh.
Because there are places that opened up.
Yep.
And it can be really, really tough for small restaurants that open either sort of right before or during the pandemic. I don't want to say too much about it. It's a neat piece, but we maybe can turn people on to some restaurants they can check out, but also get into the heads of restaurateurs as they grappled with their fears and uncertainty and having to close and change and what worked and what didn't and what ended up being a stroke of luck. And
we're going to need some new restaurants because a lot of restaurants are opting not to do. Yeah. Not to close their doors for a while.
Yeah.
And so with the outdoor seating gone.
And as far as today, all the ones we mentioned are still there and worth visiting. All really great stuff.
So this will be a nice holiday reference. You can keep this around on the coffee table all holiday long and pull something out of it.
Yeah, in holiday broadly defined too. I just want to there's a piece in there. Emily Noel Provo wrote about New Year's in her column. We do stuff on Thanksgiving. We cover a lot of bases as much as we can, but it's broadly defined the holidays during the season, and we throw the net as wide as we can imagine. A lot of it definitely Christmas related, for sure. Like Steve Gaudu, the wine columnist, he wrote something on wine gifts. If you're going to give, wine to your, or if you're going to give wine or wine type things, I think his big piece of advice, not to spoil it, is to give decanters, because I guess you can't have enough. I'm not a big wine drinker, but I guess you can't have enough decanters. You can have 3 or 4 of them because you can use them for different wines when you have guests and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of gifts, like even the book reviews. We specifically chose the books because we thought they would make nice gifts.
Oh, nice.
So, speaking of Paul Marion, Bloom Press put out something called Atlantic Currents, which is a compendium of different pieces by Lowell writers and writers from a town in Ireland. And it's dense, and there's a lot of great stuff. A lot of local writers, so if you want to support local literature, definitely pick up Atlantic Currents. Makes a great stocking stuffer kind of thing. We did the Dawn Aurora Hunt piece. We reviewed that. Joanna Carrata is a novelist from Chelmsford who wrote her first thriller, which is called The Docks. So she's a Chelmsford novelist, but it's set in Boston, and that's really good. That's a real page turner. And then a book that I read at the beginning of the pandemic that I just absolutely loved. I've been pushing it. I've mentioned on the show. I've been pushing on everyone. This is No Time to Quit Drinking, by Stephen O'Connor, who I ran into for the first time while I was out hiking.
Oh, nice.
Randomly, I was just sitting there on a bench, and he came over and he said, "Are you Doug Sparks?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." So, anyways, so we reviewed stuff that the reviews, but in my mind, it was like, well, let's do these because these are the sort of things you might want to give to book lovers.
Right.
And then we have this like artisan gift guide section. So lots of like gift ideas. And then we have stuff that's just seasonal, like Sarah Corshane, who I say over and over again is one of my favorite writers at the magazine, one of my favorite writers. She's just a great prose stylist, beautiful, beautiful writer. She's a professor at Northern Essex Community College and teaches science, but she has a literature background.
Oh, interesting.
So she has the clarity of a scientist,
right,
but like sort of the beauty in writing of a poet. And I just think her writing is fantastic. And she wrote about hunting season, not from the perspective of a hunter. She's not a hunter. But from the viewpoint of a scientist, and also what that means to your backyard, what that means to the ecosystem right behind your house. It's a really neat piece.
Interesting.
So yeah, her stuff is always amazing, and I always look forward to it, and I always learn something. Even as somebody who likes to read nature writing and be out there, I always learn cool stuff from that I just don't think anybody else is mentioning in Sarah Corshane. And there's also, what else? There was something else. Fat biking and winter biking.
Fat biking.
You know what fat bikes are?
Fat wheels?
Fat wheels.
Yeah.
The mountain bikes with the big tires that you can ride in the snow, which seemed to be, some people said was almost like a dying trend, and then COVID came along. Now everybody's going to want to get out.
Fat biking was a dying trend, or biking in the
maybe
snow?
Maybe not a dying trend. It was becoming a little bit more niche.
Yeah.
Biking in the snow was becoming maybe a little bit more niche. It turns out, from what I understand, not having done it, is it's great even for kids because I guess the bikes are really comfortable because the tires are so wide. There's a lot of stability. So even though you think, well, you're out there in the snow and ice, I think it's actually extremely safe, maybe even more safe because of the way these bikes are built than regular mountain biking.
Yeah.
Not an expert. Don't quote me on that. But we knew because of COVID that a lot of people were going to be looking for these fat tire bikes this winter. And are going to be out there. So we wanted to talk about them and places to go and some of the associations and where you can pick them up and some things to be aware of. So we did the fat biking too. And that's pretty cool. I personally, am excited about snowshoeing. Yeah. And you got to get out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can, you have to get out there, right? If mental health, physical health, all sorts of reasons, it's important to get outside during the winter because what you don't want, even with COVID, even if, say, things get worse, right, is your immune system is going to take a hit if you're not leaving your house.
Right. Got to get some sun.
You need to get some sun. You need to get out and move. And we have these resources. We have these great trails throughout the Merrimack Valley, that are there even in the winter. I love winter hiking partly because it's quiet. Like you don't see as many people. I mean, I go out there now and there'll be people who are just listening to music and, you have people who aren't normally out hiking.
It's a whole different feel, yeah.
It's a different feel. And there's also sort of a friendliness because you feel like you're part of this like little club of the people who like to get out when so it'll be like icy cold and you won't see anybody. And then you round the corner and there somebody is. And you get that kind of like, you know, like brothers and sisters, right?
There's that deadening, though. There's a real quiet to it that is really kind of peaceful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So I love that stuff, and I'm excited about that piece. It was a new writer, a young writer who wrote that, and she did a really great job. You sometimes have to trust new writers and just dive in with them and hope they produce something, but she was really great. So there's a lot, there's this, we did something on, what's it called? Goodie Crunch, which is I think they're based out of Salem. It's a food company that makes snacks based on traditional Nigerian food. And it's like vegan and gluten-free and really, really healthy, but really, really yummy. And we did something in Chavons.
Yep.
And Andover because they're kind of last of a dying breed. It's a family-run business that does things the old-fashioned way, coming right from a lineage of tailors from Turkey.
Yep.
And that's, you don't find that in many places, and you don't find it in a lot of downtowns. So we wanted to look at them.
Yep.
So anyways, a lot. Scott Plath, his column is going to be in there, of course, and everything is going to be about winter and dealing with winter and holidays. And what does Plath write about? He writes about the summer.
Oh, good for him. Yeah.
but it would be good.
Yeah.
It will be good because it's like thinking back to the summer and some of his experiences.
Yep.
It will be a little bit of warmth.
Well, we all need to look back in the middle of the winter. We all like to look back at the summer days.
Absolutely. So it's going to be a packed issue, and then of course the Diana DiZoglio piece, will be in there, and you'll get to see the photography, and we're really I'd like to think people respond to that and kind of get where we're going with it.
What's on the cover?
The cover is a Steve Penapie creation. He's our creative director, and we just wanted to do something a little bit different. So it's art that Steve did.
Okay.
It's different. It's different than what we've done in the past. So you'll have to wait and see. Glenn Pisano wanted him to Photoshop me dressed up like Santa in the midst of this, this piece of art.
Yeah.
And like the artist he is, he was not. I will tell you right now, I am not photoshopped into the cover.
He's not going for that.
Don't look for me hidden behind the trees. I'm not there. There's a lot going on, and I think we're really proud of this one, and I hope people respond to it.
Sounds like it'd be very useful all the way through the new year.
It's useful, inspiring. We wanted stuff that was like, no matter where we are in the world, no matter what happens politically, you get a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of health, a little bit of warmth, a little bit of reflection, a little bit of thoughtfulness, something to, something to get you to think, okay, here's something different I can do with my day.
Yeah,
right? I wasn't thinking of doing this, but maybe now I'm going to try.
I like the kind of permanence of the format too, because you've got 3-minute YouTube videos, or you stream past something on Instagram or Facebook, and it just goes away and you forget about it. But this you're going to be able to have. You can refer to it.
Yeah.
You'll see it and say, hey, maybe there's another dish in there for tonight that I can put together.
Yeah. I mean, this is what we have 2 interns from UMass Lowell this semester, and I kind of talked to them about this. Is like you have to think of it like, who's going to be reading this in 20 years or 30 years, and what are they going to make of it? And we want this to be accurate. We want this to be
right.
The writing of record. So if people look back at this time, this is going to be helpful for them to understand it, and they know that it's going to be truthful. They know that what they're reading is going to be like something that they can trust.
Right.
And that's very, very important to us. Aside from just hoping that the recipes will stand the test of time.
Yes.
And that, wouldn't it be great if 30 years from now somebody finds the magazine and decides to make one of the cocktails or one of these dishes, like Purple Carrot and Lowell contributed a dish, which looks fantastic, and sees this and says, oh, people don't make this sort of thing anymore.
Right. Why not?
I should do this. And who knows where it leads, how it percolates and spreads and influences things down the road.
All right. We'll look for that somewhere around November 1st.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Lou, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Everybody who's listening, thank you so much. Thanks again to Senator Diana DiZoglio. We wish her safe travels on the road ahead.